Hi everyone and welcome. Today I'm going to be showing you, talking you through basically how to make a pair of PJ bottoms. Now I'm making them out of satin fabric and it is such an easy make. I've took the pattern off these literally again now and what I've done is laid the pattern out. I laid the shorts out. And what I did were, where the crutch is, the curved crutch area, I've pinned that so there's no movement in that when I'm actually taking the pattern off it. I've laid it down onto some greaseproof paper. I've allowed 1 centimetre for my hem, and I've allowed not 1 centimetre, just under on the curve, because I'm going to be overlocking them together, so I'm not going to be taking much off them. And then I've been stretching the waist. I put my fingers in the middle where the centre is, at the top of the crutch, in the middle here. And I've simply stretched that out as far as it'll go. Let me just stretch it here. As far as it'll go. I've put my finger there, allowing a tiny bit. And then that's where I'm going to be putting a dot to where I marked it to get the width of the shorts. Okay? So I've already cut one piece out, so I'm just going to be cutting this second piece out. So I've laid one and then I've turned it over to cut my second one out. Now, when it says to place on fold, because these, it's simply 2 pieces, okay? So there's no seam on your side. So when it says to place on a fold, what you actually do is, it's basically, you're actually going to fold your fabric, you're folding your fabric in half, and that there is your fold where you place your pattern. So there's no seam there. That is your fold that you place your pattern up to when it says place at fold. Okay, that's for beginners, by the way. Right, so let me get this second one cut out. Now again, you'll notice I've not pinned it because one, and I don't like working with pins. Although I have just had some new ones for Christmas, which are quite cute. I'll just show you one. There's little pin heads, button heads on. And then also, if you do get a blunt needle and you're working with satin, it will pull the fabric. So, that is my 2 pieces cut out ready. And that is the pattern. That's simply the pattern, and that is just greaseproof paper, to which I've marked down here, place on fold, and then I've put my size on here because I do actually make these for my daughters as well, so I know that that isn't the pattern for me. Now, for the waist, it's just a piece of elastic, okay? And when you measure yourself for the elastic, as you put them where you want them to sit. Some like them to sit lower than others. And then as you've got it, because you don't want these to be tight because you're going to be sleeping in them, so you want them quite comfortable. And when you've got where you want it to be, you do 1 inch overlap, so where you're going to stitch it. And you want to make sure with this that you can get it over your hips, which you will. Also to bear in mind is, if you are taking your pattern off a pair of pyjamas that you've got, because it doesn't have to be a short pattern. If you've not got any shorts, bedtime shorts, you can take a pair of pyjama bottoms and basically take the pattern off them and just mark them to what length you want them. Now you will see on that leg that is only probably just under 3 inch that, but then you'll have 1 centimetre for your hem, and you'll have probably 0.5 centimetre for me because I'm overlocking it on the inside. So you've got your, let's say it's more like 2 inch that, isn't it? So that'll be 2 inch plus 1 centimetre plus 0.5 centimetre for your final cut to get your shorts. So on your pyjama bottoms, you just measure how long you want your shorts by just getting a tape measure in your crutch, measuring it how long you want them to be, and basically just cut your pattern to wherever you want it to be. Now these are quite flowy, they're not tight fitting. You could actually make French knickers from this pattern. You could do them in lace. You could actually put a seam down the side and actually just put a hem on both sides and put, you know, cute couple of cute black bows on the sides. They would make nice, but with that you'd put some sort of cotton gusset in like you would with any underwear. Okay, so let's go to the sewing machine. Okay, so we're at the overlocking where most of the work's going to be done, if not all. So what I'm going to start off doing first is actually just overlocking the bottom of the hem on both pieces. Now the needle's not perfect on this because I can see it's actually pulling it, but because they're for me, I'm not going to really change it now. I'll just do it at a later stage. Now my bulb actually went in my machine yesterday. I have tried to replace it because I have got a new one, but it's in that tight. I'm just going to let Kevin do it later. It's awkward to get to on an overlocker, isn't it? Because nothing pulls out for you to get to it. You've got to fiddle trying to get it out. Right, so let's get the second one done. And I'm just slightly holding it at back. I'm not pulling it, but I'm just holding it straight and flat. I'm going to go to the other side, and I'm simply going to put both the legs together. So that's the leg, this bit here. So I'm just going to put that underneath. I'm going to get the other one, and you're putting your right sides together at this point, and the wrong side on the outside. Okay, put that just under the foot. And it's only taking a little tiny bit off because, as I said, I only allowed a little bit because I was doing an overlocker. Right, so what I'm going to be doing at this point, just slightly trim that because for some reason that's just slightly a little bit higher, but that's satin for you, isn't it? It does move. So I'll take you to the table to show you this bit. Right guys, so first of all, I've just been and actually changed both my needles in my overlocker because when I've laid this these legs down, they've pulled more than what I thought it had done. So if I'm going to wear them, they might as well not be shredded to, you know, without pulls with blunt needles. Right, so we're at the point now then, where what we're going to do is, one is the right way, one is the wrong way, okay? So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to be placing the one that's the right way, come further away, the one that's the right way, I'm going to be placing inside the one that's the wrong way. So, it sounds confusing when you talk about this. So I'm going to be putting the seams there, lining them up, so I've got both the wrong sides, okay? And I'm going to put a pin in that, a clip. I'm going to line the top up. Now, as I said, with satin, it does move a bit, so it's not one of the easiest fabrics to work with. and then I'll just put one in the middle. Now, as a rule, I wouldn't do this. I'd just sit at my machine and work with it without the clips because it's such a small project. But I'm doing this basically for the beginners out there that's just starting out on the sewing journey. And this particular one, this particular make, is going out to Janita. So let me know if you tried Janita, how you found it, and if you liked it. So we're going to go back to the machine now to stitch that up. Okay, so here we go, stitching the crotch line right round together. Just making sure that your front and back is lining up. It's not your front and back, it's left and right. Just make sure that what I'm going to do here is make sure that one of the seams is going that way and one's going this way, because then you don't have a bulk of thickness. Okay. Comes out. Right, so from there then, we're going to turn that through and we've got as shorts. Okay, so we're going to go back to the table now to actually put the elastic on the waist. Okay, so with the elastic, I've stitched the inch overlap that I told you when you measure to allow your inch overlap. So I've stitched that, and that is keeping the elastic secure. I've then basically put it in half and I've put a clip at the bottom. I've then folded it in half again, pulled it down, and I've put a clip at the bottom again on both, so that when this is going onto the shorts, it's going to have an even amount of elastic on each quarter of each leg. So on the shorts themselves, I've got 2 seams, so I don't need to clip them because that is, you know, that is a marking. So I've simply put those together, pulled them across and clipped. So I've got my 4 quarters. Right, so I'm going to put, just have a look at them. Now with these, there's no front and back as such, because normally when you're doing a pair of trousers, normally your back side, your seating area would be bigger than your front to allow for your bum. But because these are a loose fitting short, the pattern is the same for the front and back. So I'm going to put this, when it's overjoined, I'm going to have that as the back of my shorts. So let me just see which, oh, I've not got my clips. I'm just going to go and get my clips. Right, so I'm just going to clip that. I'm then going to get my clip what's on here and my clip where the quarter is. I'm going to take that one off and then just clip that in place. I'm going to take the next clip across to the seam, make sure that that's in place and lined up before I take the clip off, and clip that in place. And then I'm going to match these 2 ones up, get that lined up, take one off and clip that on. So that is all clipped in position for sewing. So we're going to go back to the machine, stitch that down. Okay guys, so here we go, stitching the elastic on to the shorts. So I'm just stretching that out and I'm going to hold it in the middle. Okay, and I've done it with the right side up and the elastic underneath, because your stitch is neater. This is the right way to do it, because then your stitches looks neater than it does underneath. So I'm then just going to slightly pull it from behind, but I'm not pulling it, I'm just sort of straightening it out. Okay. Okay, then I'm going to go to my clip, pull it again. Okay, so let me just get that clip out of the way. So that's my first quarter done. I'm then going to pull it, go to my middle again. To my clip. Just slide it a little bit there and just pull that. Now as I'm sewing this, you may be thinking, how does she know that the elastic's stopping in place? As I'm doing it, I can see, I don't know if you can see it there, can you see the thickness of the elastic? So I can see that it is in place as I'm sewing it. Okay. Right, so let me get to the next one. Centre, let's take that clip off, and then just slightly pull it on it. Okay, let me get to the centre of that, take that clip off. I'm glad that that's just played up right at the end, because with that we have done with the overlocker. Right, so I've come across to my juke, and all I'm going to do now is basically top stitch the waist down and do the hem in one go on the juke. So let's just get in position where you can see that I'm doing this. So I'm going to start at the back. Don't want it at the front, I want it at the back of the shorts. And all I'm going to do is turn it over, and I'm going to put that underneath the machine, and I'm going to just run at the side of my foot. That's going to be my guide for sewing the elastic down. Right, so I'm just going to start, and then I'm just going to, again, like I did on overlocker, I'm just going to slightly pull it straight from the back. So I'm not pulling it as such, I'm just holding it. So instead of it being gathered, I'm just pulling it so it's going to be straight and lay flat upon me. Okay. Just going to give that a good overlap. Right, so I'm just going to trim off my excess threads. Right, so we're going to go now and just do the hems on the trousers. Now you can pin or clip these if you wish, but again, because I've been doing it for donkey's years, I'm not going to be doing that. So I'm going to be turning them over the allowance that I allowed when I cut the pattern out, which is roughly 1 centimetre. again, I'm just going to trim the threads on there. The other leg. And make sure that overlocking's tucked in. So I'm actually stitching that into the seam. Back tack there. Now don't forget, when you're doing your back tack again, make sure it's a good back tack, because if it's something that's going to be washed regular and you're only doing a couple of stitches, it's not going to hold it. Okay, so let's go back to the table and have a look at these. Okay, so that's it guys, the product is finished. So let me just show you. So you can see you've got the cute top, you're nice and neat overlocking on the inside. Now you can, if you want, double row stitching, or even if you've got a zigzag on your machine, a zigzag would be a pretty stitch to go around. You've got your nice neat hems, and it's such an easy project. So that, as I say, is such an easy make that you can take from one of your garments that you're actually wearing at the moment. So I just want to have a quick chat with you about French seams. Okay, so machines. My first machine that I very first started off on only had a basic straight stitch. There was no zigzag on it or any other type of stitching whatsoever. So my Duke, obviously, that just does a straight stitch, but I've got a second machine that if I do need fancy stitches, which to be honest with you, I don't, because I've got my overlocker. Now, if you've not got an overlocker or a machine that you can do a zigzag, pinking shears will also, if you cut with pinking shears, it stops your fabric from fraying. So that's an easy fix, but I want to talk you through how to do a French seam. Now, if you've got an item of clothing that's got French seams inside, then you haven't bought it off a market stall, because it's a what I call a posh seam, and it's probably the best seam that you can do. Now, if you do a French seam on any pattern to get your knee to finish, allow extra for the seam, because you're going to be doing basically 2 seams. Now, what I mean by that is, I've just done a mock-up here. So the first thing you do on a French seam is you put that's your wrong side of your fabric that you would put together. Okay? So your seam is on the right side of the fabric, and you can see this is all with the shorts that I've just made, your silk, you do need something that's going to give you a neat finish. So that is what you'd end up with on your first seam. Okay, so then what you need to do is trim that down slightly. So if you look at the amount that I've stitched that, I would trim half of that down. Okay, so I would trim it down to about there, all the way down. Then what you need to do is you turn it the other way. So now this is the wrong side of fabric that's going to be on the inside of the garment. And you would simply, now you might be as well pressing this to get it flat, so you're going to get the best seam possible, right? So what you do then is you would stitch down there all the way down, and this is what you would end up with. You would end up with this seam on the inside of your garment, okay? And then on your right side, you've got your normal regular seam as it should be. but everything that's raw is inside this seam, and that is what is known as a French seam. So a recap on that: if you're going to do a French seam, and if you're making something nice for yourself, I would recommend you do it. And then, you know, when you're getting compliments, and if anybody's picking it up and looking at it, you've got a nice smart seam inside. So with a French seam, you put your wrong sides together, whereas normally you'd put your right sides together. So it's wrong sides together, right sides facing you as you're sewing your seam, and that is what your first seam would look like. Then you're going to turn it opposite. So now you're working with your wrong sides facing you and your right sides on the inside, and you would stitch down that, and that is the seam which is known as a French seam. So let me just open that up. So that, as you can see, is a very smart seam to have inside your finished product. So as I said, if you've not got overlocker or on your machine, if it's just your basic when you've got a straight stitch, this is definitely an option for you. And like I said, it's such a beautiful finish. Now, a lot of people, like your lower end garments, don't do this because, one, they've got an overlockers, they're not need to, and two, you're doing twice the work because you're doing your seam twice, but it is well worth the end result. So I just thought I'd share that with you. So I hope you've enjoyed this make today. From this, if you wanted to make trousers instead of shorts, it's easy. All you would do is measure from your crotch to where you want them to, 3/4, wherever you want the length to, and basically just extend the pattern. You can make them wider, you can make them narrower. But as I say, if you are doing, bear in mind when you're taking patterns off things, because if it's a tighter fitting one, and it's a stretch fabric, and then you go into a non-stretch fabric, you need to allow more fabric because you've got to get it over your hips, because your waist is smaller than your hips, although when you get to my age, they might be the same. But, so this is what you need to do. Bear in mind the fabrics you're using. Try and do the same fabric to what you are taking the pattern off, because then it will be easy for you. But just bear in mind that if you do change what fabric you're going for, you may need to allow extra. But if you've got any questions whatsoever, leave them in the comments below. Janita, I hope you try this one and it works great for you, because I've seen the skirt that you've done and it's so cute. So bye for now and see you soon. Take care, everyone.